I think the retail customers are very consistent. They want to continually buy and buy and buy and buy. And you see the price movements, I think, are really more driven by institutional customers, getting in and out of the markets, and they're arbitraging between the exchanges and everything like that.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Growing on Crypto. Today I have an awesome guest. I've got Joel Edgerton, the COO of BitFlyer. So Joel, thank you so much for joining me and coming on the show today.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So that background you were just telling me is actually your Tokyo office. That's what it really looks like.
Yes, that is actually what it looks like. There's actually another, you can actually see a bigger one. It actually looks like kind of an airport lounge. If you're doing like a business lounge and stuff like that. So there's like a bunch of free food and drinks and everything, like an airport lounge in there. It's really, really interesting. It's very Tokyo-like.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Well, maybe just to kick off, can you give us a general overview of what BitFlyer is and what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So BitFlyer is an exchange originally founded in 2014 in a bakery in Japan. So not a garage, a bakery. So a little bit of Japanese class in there by two guys from Goldman Sachs. This is around the time that Mt. Gox blew up. So timing was impeccable. So yeah, they started the company there to bring, crypto to Japan, and it became very popular, and they're now the largest in Japan. But they always had an image for taking it global because, obviously Bitcoin is global as well. So we're now the only licensed exchange in Japan and US and Europe. So we have all three regions covered with licenses. And I think we're the only one that's got all three covered. So yeah, we're quite big. Probably globally, we're usually in the top 10, top 5, depending on volumes and stuff like that. We have, traditional exchange products for professionals. We also have simple buy sell for retail side. And we're looking at some interesting things to kind of take it to the next level, particularly in the US and in Europe.
Okay. Well, and I think you might be right on the license thing. I don't know of anyone that has all three. A few that have two, but even that is a little bit rare, it seems.
Yeah.
So.
It's a lot of work and very expensive.
Yeah. Now, within the US, do you know how many states you guys are in? Are you in quite a few states, or what's that kind of process?
47 states plus DC. So we're actually in Hawaii. So we're one of the few that are in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we're working on our 48th state at the moment, which will be Connecticut. We're working on Connecticut at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I do not envy you having to go state to state doing all of the different pieces.
Yeah, the legal guys, they earn their money.
Right. And so I also saw that you guys, during the last big Bitcoin rally, actually broke records for your trading volume. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we did break records. We also broke records as far as attracting clients, which is even more important than all-time highs. So I think Tokyo tripled the number of customer acquisitions during that time.
Wow.
And I think that goes to show you, not just when you get all-time highs and everybody starts talking about it and you get the buzz and everything around that, but where do they go when they're talking about it? And they're going to go to the safer exchanges that are licensed and have been there and have a brand and everything like that. And in the US, we also did quite well during that time. We obviously don't have as strong as brand as we do in Japan, but yeah, we have some interesting things and all-time highs, both in volumes, revenues, and customer acquisition.
So maybe we can kind of like rewind back for a second and just go through a couple of like quick nuts and bolts things, like what's the KYC process? Are you guys custodial? Like, kind of walk us through just a couple of those basic questions people often look at when they're looking at an exchange.
Sure. So we are a centralized exchange. We do KYC. Obviously, we talked before about being licensed. We're trying to make that process as easy as possible. So we've got a couple of things in to kind of get it down to a matter of 10, 15 minutes, and you can get through. And to try to automate it as much as we can to make the customer experience important, because we don't want to be a company where the whole business revolves around the price of Bitcoin or whatever. We have to add some value ourselves. So to make that customer experience easier on onboarding and then trading easier, we do also custody the customer's assets. So we keep 100% of customer assets in cold wallets. And this is actually partly because of Japanese law and the regulation. So if we get hacked and our hot wallets get taken, it's our assets that are taken, not the customer's assets. So we take the customer's protection very, very seriously.
Now, is that common practice or is that kind of unique to what you guys are doing?
I don't know of anybody else. I mean, in Japan, they changed the laws recently and they made it quite strict. So Japan is very, very strict on this point. So maybe in Japan it's a normal practice, but I don't think it's normal practice outside of Japan. But obviously, because we're a Japanese company, we follow the Japanese laws. So yes.
So you just, touched on the cold storage of customer funds and trying to make onboarding easier. There are obviously a lot of different solutions out there if someone's looking to buy crypto. Why would they use BitFlyer over someone else? Are those some of the main ones, or are there any other kind of differentiating factors?
Yeah, I think one of the things that sets us apart is, we actually care about our customers, right? We limit the amount of coins that we put out there. So we're not like, some of the exchanges where they have like 5,000 coins and everybody's confused and they don't understand what this, alphabet soup is. So we purposely limit it to keep it so it's safe for our customers and they're not going to get caught in scams and everything like that. And we really look out for and try to care for our customers. So I think that's one of the major things. I mean, we do the basics,
Right.
all of the security, the multi-sig, everything. We have all of that as well. But I think really what sets us apart is, we really try to protect our customers and take care of our customers.
So I'm glad you mentioned, the big variety of coins. I think that obviously that's a big topic right now, especially with the DeFi world, kind of evolving the way that it has. There's been a lot of scams. There's been a lot of hacks. There's been rug pulls. So how is BitFlyer kind of approaching all of this? Are you guys maybe considering adding, any kind of these coins, or what kind of, stop losses are you kind of putting in place to help protect customers from that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we watch the DeFi space very carefully, obviously. The innovation in there is amazing and we're really happy to see it, but we are not going to be the first ones into that space, right? We're maybe a fast follower is the best strategy for us in that area. So we look at it, we see what happens, when they get into coins. For us, we have to go through, Japanese regulators. We also have the bit license in the US, so we have to go through New York. We have EU regulators. So when we put coins out, it's really well vetted, which makes us slow, but it also makes us safe for the customer. So yeah, we like the innovation in the DeFi space and we encourage the innovation in the DeFi space. But we're not going to be the pioneer with the arrows sticking out of them. We're going to be the guy coming in afterwards.
Right. So, in your position, you see a lot of different movement of kind of buying and selling and like the trends that happen within the market. And, you just mentioned that in the last run, the amount of, wallets in Japan and all of that, like what kind of trends are you seeing and what is fueling people's buying and selling decisions right now?
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's definitely differences between retail customers and institutional customers.
Definitely. Yeah.
When, we've had the run up, the retail customers were generally buying, some of them, sold, but generally buying. The institutional customers were a little bit faster to pull the trigger and to get out on some things. So I think the retail customers are very consistent. They want to continually buy and buy and buy and buy. And you see the price movements, I think, are really more driven by institutional customers, getting in and out of the markets and, they're arbitraging between the exchanges and everything like that. So, if you want to think about it, you've kind of got the traders who are getting in and out of the price. You have investors that are kind of looking at the fundamentals, and then you have the believers who are like, it's a religion and we're going to take over the government and everything like that, and they'll just hold forever and the coin will never move.
So speaking of, kind of the movement of Bitcoin, I'm just curious to hear your general thoughts on, what this next bull run could potentially look like. I know you probably can't give any kind of, speculations on price, but just in general, like, what are your thoughts on where you might see this all going? Is 2021 the year we've all been waiting for? Like, what are your general thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have the continuing debasement of fiat currency. If you look at the US dollar and what happened when the last time we were at this level of debt, which was after World War II, they basically inflated the debt away. So I see them doing the exact same thing again. They'll inflate the debt away, and the bills in front of Congress are basically doing exactly that. So if you're a holder of a hard asset like Bitcoin, that's really good for you. But I think, to be honest, the Bitcoin world tends to watch price way too often, and there's celebrations, and it's kind of anticlimactic. It's like, oh, we got 19,000. Like, well, okay, well, now we got 20,000. Oh, okay. So it's kind of anticlimactic, but the fundamental innovation is still happening. The DeFi space is still doing its thing. Bitcoin is still getting wider and wider acceptance. You have corporations now buying it for treasury, even to the point where they're taking out debt like MicroStrategy to go and buy more Bitcoin, right? All of that's really strong fundamentals for Bitcoin, for a hard asset like that. So it will go up and down because you're going to have institutional guys that are coming in and trying to make their buck. So, you're going to have that volatility. But if you look at a longer time frame and you look at a holding strategy, those things in that type of environment tend to do well.
No, I'm glad you mentioned the debasement of fiat currency as, that's a big topic just in the world right now. It's very interesting to see how many more like normal kind of consumers are aware of things like quantitative easing where they never were before, like all these money print your go burr memes are actually, making it into mainstream. And so just in general, I guess I'm curious just to dive into that a little bit more, if you don't mind, because like as the U.S. economy, as the Federal Reserve continues to print more and more money, is it kind of inevitable that this ship is sinking? Or, you mentioned that in World War II, they were able to kind of inflate the debt away. Like, what are your general thoughts on all of that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a sinking ship. I mean, currencies have been around for thousands of years. Governments have been around for thousands of years. You're going to have, the ebbs and flows that are going to be there. When they go to extreme is when things, really hit the fan, like Venezuela, right? So, that's a great case for Bitcoin in Venezuela. So those type of situations, I think, I don't think the U.S. will get into a situation like that.
Right.
But, as an asset to hold relative to dollars, yeah, it's a nice hedge against that. So particularly if you're on a fixed income, right? And which is interesting because a lot of the customers tend to be younger customers, but the ones that would benefit the most from it are older customers that are on a fixed income, right? And, they're getting $1,000 a month or whatever, $2,000 a month. If that's being inflated away, they're the ones taking the heaviest hit. So to be honest, it's the older customers, I think, that have the most advantage out of Bitcoin, but the younger customers tend to be the ones that get it and are getting involved.
So to just kind of wrap up the interview, I want to kind of pivot and come back to talking about BitFlyer a little bit. So what are you guys working on? What is the team excited about? What's kind of coming next for BitFlyer?
Yeah, so I can't talk about too much about the stuff we're working on, but no, we've got some exciting stuff. I think obviously in Japan, we're much bigger. So for example, in Japan, you can go into an electronics store and use Bitcoin and buy electronics. We've already got that in place in Japan. So I think part of it is to take what's proven to work in Japan and then move it into the US and Europe. And that's part of what we're doing. I think also the way DeFi is going with breaking financial systems up into primitives. So like, okay, this is a lending function, this is a borrowing function, this is a savings function. I think that's all really, really interesting. And I think, longer term, our competition is not with other crypto companies and fintech companies. Our competition is with banks. And it is the banks that are the best competitors because they're slow and dumb. So that's a great place for us to get into and start competing against the banks.
Awesome. Well, Joel, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today and just chat all about BitFlyer and what you guys are building and just kind of your thoughts on the industry in general. It's been great to get to pick your brain. So if someone is watching this interview and they want to go check out BitFlyer, where should they go next?
So we have bitflyer.com. If you go to that, depends on which region you're in, you're going to get a Japanese site or a European site or the US. So bitflyer.com. /EN-US if you want the US one directly. You can find me on Twitter, BitFlyer Joel. BitFlyer USA is our Twitter handle for the US.
Perfect. I will link to all of that below so people can just quickly click through. But thank you again, Joel, so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Glad to talk to you.